Have you ever tried to listen to your body and then you just ended up in more pain? With scoliosis, those signals from the body can be really, really confusing. So this is what we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about when we need to listen to the body and when sometimes this might backfire if we are listening maybe too much to the body and potentially doing the wrong things. So I can see some of you already tuning into this chat here. So let me know if you can hear me all right. I might be changing the microphone and hoping that you can hear this a little bit better. I don't know. But yes, that's what we're talking about today. And I would love to hear from you if you are here live as well. If this is something that you have experienced with scoliosis before, because obviously scoliosis is a little bit of a tricky condition where we are sometimes being told things like stand up straight, when actually for us, we are feeling like everything is, our spine is straight and we're really standing upright and in good posture when we're actually not. So this is kind of the type of thing where we might be like, maybe my body is not quite telling me the same or the right thing. So obviously we know with our asymmetry, one side of the body might be working a little bit harder than the other side. So what does this actually mean? And if we're kind of breaking this down a little bit, and we talked a lot about the convex side and the concave side of the curve. Very often it's said that the convex side is I'm saying very often it's said it's the stronger side. There's different thoughts, and we already had a podcast episode on this, on which side is actually stronger, but it might feel like the convex side is stronger. But that's just kind of because we tend to be hanging out into our curve pattern. So we might have kind of a preference to being over to one side a little bit more than the other. And that just means that the muscles become stronger. They become overused and they might become a little bit tight as well. So obviously, that might mean that we have the sensation we need to stretch it out, right? It's the tight side. So I'm just going to have a good stretch. And obviously, that might not work so well because it might be that actually what you feel is the tight side is actually the overstretched side. So the last thing that you want to do is stretch it even more, because that's not going to be kind of a good thing long term, obviously, for your body. But let's go back a little step, because I think, especially me as a yoga teacher, listening to your body is probably the phrase that we as yoga teachers say the most, because we want people to take responsibility, obviously. We are promoting body awareness. So it's a good thing to slow down and to listen and to hear what your body is having to say, because it could be that most of the time that we are just kind of completely overriding this with our brains and we're just getting on with our lives and we're not pausing and listening to the body. So by no means do I want to say don't listen to your body at all. I think it is a good thing, and I think we all need to take responsibility in our movement practice, in our day-to-day practice life, and pausing sometimes and maybe kind of thinking about, and it doesn't mean that you have to say, oh, this is what my body is saying, this is what it wants right now. It might just mean having a little pause and thinking about what could this be, just kind of feeling inside the body, what is it that you actually need right now, right in this moment. And let's not forget that pain and tension in the body doesn't always mean that there is something wrong. And this took me a very, very long time to understand. But I think this is such a key thing to realize, that just because something is painful, it doesn't mean that there is something broken or something that is not, that is damaged or anything like that. It is just a sensation. So we do have to keep this in mind when we're kind of making a decision of what we might need in the moment right now. Good. So we already talked a little bit about that whole of the stretching sensation thing. So when you're thinking like, oh, I've got a left lumbar curve, for example, thinking, oh, my left side feels really tight, I need to stretch it out. I'm going to be like, I'm going to give this all a good stretch here, pulling it apart. So this is one of the approaches where I would say, let's take a little bit of a step back. Let's maybe slow down first. Let's think about, rather than kind of going into that extreme of stretching, which means basically pulling the muscle apart or lengthening it even further, can we think about it as releasing and softening? So that would kind of be a slightly different approach, and it might mean slightly different type of exercises rather than a big stretch and lengthen, because all you would do is go, first of all, you would go further into your scoliosis pattern. So you would kind of just reinforce the pattern. Or can we kind of think about maybe a little bit of movement, a little bit of mobilizing, nourishing that area? So rather than stressing it even more, because that's what stretch is, it is a stress. Can we think about maybe slightly squeezing it, maybe some touch, maybe some little bit of a massage first, so kind of getting the blood flowing a little bit more into this area, softening and releasing with the breath as well. Good. So I can relate to that now. When I feel slight pain, I'll breathe while slowing down and waiting a minute. Many times it will dissolve after breathing into that area. Yes, absolutely. I am absolutely with you. I also have learned to not take pain so seriously anymore, for the reasons that I mentioned before, and especially if we are talking about chronic pain, and I see chronic pain obviously in your username as well. If we're talking about chronic pain, we know that this is a pain, that type of pain that our brain has kind of learned and has accepted as a normal thing. We do have to kind of make a little bit of a judgment about this, or can we make a judgment about this? Does this mean that that area that I feel is super tight right now and is painful, that area actually has a problem? Or is it just a symptom? Is it that something is, obviously there's no doubt that with scoliosis, there's all sorts of imbalances going on. But it might actually be that a different part of your body is struggling, but it's that area, for whatever reason, that is giving you those pain sensations. So it could be a little bit misleading. So rather than working with this area, maybe it's a different area that kind of needs a little bit more attention. And I like to compare this to, if you have children, having a quiet child and having a loud child, right? You might have a child that is really, really demanding your attention all the time. It might be struggling in school. Maybe they've got issues with their friendships. They're always getting in trouble. You always get that call from the teacher. So your whole attention is on this child, and you're giving all your energy. And then you have got that quiet child, which is just not a troublemaker at all. Is doing everything, is doing the homework, doesn't seem to be having any problems. But actually, quietly, they might be struggling just as much or maybe even more. So just because something is loud, it doesn't mean that all your energy has to go into that. Can we kind of, can we distribute it a little bit more, our energy a little bit more evenly? That's what I'm trying to say. Good. So another one is kind of when we, and some of you might know, I fell down the stairs about a month ago or so. I injured my knee. And the first thing the doctor said to me is, don't rest, which I was like, what? Why not? But get into kind of movement fairly quickly. Obviously, you don't want to push through the pain or anything like that, but you don't want to just take everything out of the equation, because the body will relatively quickly forget. So what you don't use, you're going to lose, unfortunately. That's why we don't put people in casts for a long period of time anymore as well. Same with stiffness. If something feels stiff and achy, sometimes our kind of thinking or our, what is our body trying to tell you? We might think, well, that means I need to be really still and do nothing. Rest. And I am all for resting, by the way. I think resting is a great thing to do. But what does resting actually mean? Maybe it's resting your brain. Maybe it's taking some time out. So it doesn't mean lying on the sofa watching TV. That's not resting. It's not restful for your brain, unfortunately. And it's probably not restful for your body either, because you are going to be in a really slightly awkward position, probably, that is not going to be helping you with this stiffness and achiness as well. Good. That's it. So we've got somebody asking here, can you do push-ups or suspension in fixed bar, or the back long table is useful? So you're talking about traction, I think, with that second part. Push-ups is obviously something completely different. And I'm not quite sure about the context. Do you mean like when you're in pain? When you've got aches and pains going on? That's what I'm kind of reading from this as well. So one of the things we always do in our membership classes, we do the half downward dog, and this could be sometimes on the bar. So we're holding onto the bar or back of a chair, and then lengthening, creating some traction in the spine. Now, you could argue that that's a stretch, right? And I would to a certain degree agree with that. It is a stretch, and it's probably not something that I would start the class with. And those of you who are members, you know this. At some point, it will come. There will be a half downward dog. There will be a downward dog, but probably not in the beginning. There will probably be something before that is going to prepare the body for the more kind of stretchy poses that will come afterwards as well. And same with the push-ups as well. I think push-ups are great and a really, really good kind of opportunity to strengthen the upper body. Obviously, if you are in shoulder pain, you might not be starting with the push-ups. And actually, what I would probably be doing in that case, if you've got anything going on with the shoulders, I wouldn't say, well, let's skip anything to do with shoulders, but I would maybe say, why don't you start, rather than putting all your weight onto your arms, why don't you start lying on your back and pushing something away from you? So a couple of dumbbells or a bar or anything like that. Could even be a broom or something like that, just to kind of get you started with this pushing action, but your back is fully supported. Because push-ups, there's a lot of things that can go wrong in terms of our alignment at the same time as well. Good. Diana saying, I like the example of the quiet versus loud child. Yes, I think it's kind of a really, it's a really nice way to kind of think about it a little bit more as well. So we want to make sure that both children, both sides of the body, get the attention as well. Good. So trusting instincts is another one. Again, what does this actually mean? We might have some ideas of. I think this is a really interesting one. I think deep down we know what's going on, but there are so many different layers, and we get information maybe from health professionals. No, this is what's going on with you, and then you see another health professional who will then say, no, this is going on. This is what's going on with you. And actually you've got a problem here and you should be working on this. So we kind of get bombarded with different information and different things. But it's all in your head at the end of the day. It's all kind of mental things that are just kind of confusing you a little bit more and trying to analyze. Sometimes it's not very useful to know a lot of anatomy, I have found, because you will be trying to analyze what's going on. Is it coming from this muscle? Is it coming from this muscle? Who is not working and who's overworking? Obviously, that knowledge can be useful. But it kind of takes us away from the whole, let's slow down, let's take a few breaths. As somebody said in the beginning, it might be that it's gone after a minute of breathing, and we've kind of had this whole panic attack in the meantime, that we might have this and this and this, and we really need to see a surgeon to get this sorted, but actually it wasn't necessary at all. Good. Are Schroth exercises beneficial after fusion and revision? So I am not a Schroth therapist. Obviously, I'm a yoga and Pilates teacher. But I would say yes, definitely. I think they have some great tools. Obviously, Schroth was originally invented by Katharina Schroth in Germany, and it was invented as a treatment of severe scoliosis to avoid surgery. So I think that was kind of the main thing about these exercises, was there was no desire or maybe even an option to go into fusion surgery. So that's why they did those exercises. But at the end of the day, what I know from Schroth exercises, okay, sometimes it depends on what school of thought you're following there. They can take you against your curvature, in which case I wouldn't suggest this for anybody with a fusion, obviously, because your fusion means that your spine is fixed. Your surgeon has decided basically for you where your neutral position is and where your alignment is. You don't want to push against this, obviously. But a lot of Schroth exercises are done in a neutral spine position, and you're literally just directing your breath into different areas. You work on elongation of the spine, and then you're working on kind of opening some of these forgotten areas. So I think as long as you work with a Schroth therapist who is familiar, obviously, with bodies after spinal fusion, then I think absolutely. What I wouldn't do is kind of Google Schroth exercises, and then just take the first three. That's what I wouldn't recommend, really. Good. Lovely. So I'm getting back to my little list here. So what do we want to do instead? Obviously, we already kind of talked about that, listening to the body. Yes, of course, we should listen to the body. What we have to take it with a pinch of salt, and we want to kind of take into consideration what we know. But possibly the first thing is to slow down and maybe not react straight away. This is the same thing I find with my kids are turning into teenagers, and they can be really triggering. And the first thing you want to do is kind of just kind of shout and react and tell them all the things that you know better than them and what to do. But actually, sometimes it's much better to listen, to not give your opinion straight away, and not to react and slow down. It doesn't mean that you might not want to react afterwards, but you take that time in the beginning to just feel what's going on, right? And in practical terms, for me, what I like to do if I am suffering from pain, I just get really curious, right? So for example, again, I'm coming back to my knee because that is my latest injury. But I am like, I'm trying different movements. I'm like, that feels fine. That feels fine. And then I come across something and I'm like, oh, actually, that there are some little twinges here when I do it this way. And usually it's about a different relationship to the ground. So the same movement might be okay when I'm lying down, but it's not okay when I'm in all fours or when I'm standing up. So this would be like, oh, this is interesting, right? This is some really valuable information. Now I take this into consideration and then I forget about it, right? Because tomorrow is another day and tomorrow it might feel completely different. So I think the body has a really, it has a way of giving us information, but it also has a way of sorting itself out when it needs to. There's some great self-healing powers that we all have. And sometimes, especially with chronic pain, it becomes a little bit difficult because we don't know, because there isn't anything tangible. Maybe you've seen loads and lots of specialists and nobody can actually tell you what's going on, what's wrong. And scoliosis definitely falls into this category, in my opinion, because we are dealing with constant imbalance in the body. Now, it's a physical imbalance. It's also, it's mentally, it's really challenging because well, maybe it's visible, right? Maybe we can see it. Maybe the clothes don't fit so well. Maybe we've got always one bra strap that folds down, right? It's not just your spine, it's your whole body. You might have had some emotional experiences. Maybe somebody's pointed it out. Maybe you've had to wear a brace. Maybe somebody has told you you're going to end up in a wheelchair, and there's this kind of fear and all these kind of emotional reactions that are stored in the body with you all the time. So in that case, we might have to kind of go down a slightly, little bit more of a winding road of using all of the tools that we know about dealing with chronic pain, but it might not be stretching it out. That might not be the thing to do right now. So what is obviously good to do is to learn as much as possible about your pattern, about your scoliosis, because I did say sometimes we overanalyze, but with scoliosis, it can be kind of useful to know which side is overworked and which side is not really participating, which is the quiet child, as we talked about already. And then we can kind of combine this whole the knowledge. And I have a free workshop, a workbook, which I'm gonna link to as well, where we kind of I take you through the things that you can see and the things that you know, and then also you want to start to feel. You want to feel all the things that are actually going on in the body, and they might or might not correspond, but it is all information. So it is all things that we can use to our advantage as well. Scoliosis really does affect all major areas of our lives. Yes, I absolutely agree. So I think it's about listening to our body. Yes, but maybe it's more about having a conversation with our body. So is this really true? Because we don't just accept everything as truth. We kind of still want to use a little bit of the things that we know already. We want to ask questions, and we want to have a little bit of a back and forth, and always ask yourself, is this really true, or is this just in the moment? Is it changing? Is it here this morning? Is it here in the evening? And that is then going to take some of this heaviness away from the pain as well. I think if we kind of become a little bit more curious and ask questions, experiment with breathing, with movement, maybe some mindfulness techniques as well, even if you don't believe in that type of thing, and if you're saying, oh, well, they're all saying it's all in my head, try out, there's a technique called the expressive writing, where you basically for 10 minutes just write down everything that comes to your mind. What have you got to lose? Just your pain, really. That's what you've got to lose. So even if you think that's complete rubbish, and you think like, ugh, I'm not imagining my pain, obviously, just try it out, and there might be something there. It's not going to solve all your problems, but there might be something like, oh, maybe I am holding on to this or that. Maybe there are other things that you can then help your body with as well. Good. So I think I've sort of covered everything on my list. And it's really, this episode is really there to get you to kind of think about this a little bit more. And yeah, maybe you have got something that felt right in the moment, but actually it then just led to more pain, or it led to something else going on. It just made things worse. So it's just to kind of get you to think about this as well. And I'm sure you will find that other people in this community especially have got very, very similar experiences as well. Good. It also helps to be proactive and prepared for anything we know is uncomfortable or cause pain. Yeah, and sometimes it makes us feel safe. And remember, I go on about this all the time. Pain is a signal that the body somehow feels, or brain feels somehow threatened. What is the best way not to feel threatened? Is to prepare, right? And to whatever, to control the things that you can control, right? We cannot control everything. But I know, for example, my husband gets very, very stressed out when we go on holiday. So he will start 3 days before making a long list and packing and thinking about all the things that go wrong. Now, this does add stress to me, but it does make him feel very safe. And if that's what he needs to feel safe, then we're going to go with that as well. So if that is something where you're like, I'm going to go on a hike, I might be ending up in pain, I'm going to prepare for this, right? I'm going to have all the tools that might help me. Maybe I have like a little back support or something. Maybe I take my stretchy band or my yoga equipment with me so I can do a few kind of gentle exercises on the way, but you are prepared, right? This is already going to help you dealing with anything that might come up. Good, lovely. Thank you so much, everyone. I've actually got a one-to-one client now, so I'm going to have to go. But thank you so much for all your thoughts here as well. I am seeing some thank yous here in the chat, and I really, really appreciate you tuning in to listening to me, obviously, and yeah, making this a conversation, obviously, as well. And yeah, I'm always willing to learn and find out new things. And I think it really helps us all as well. Good, lovely, everyone. Have a great afternoon, end of your day, and I will see you very soon. Bye.